In March of 2024, I bought this decrepit 32-foot wooden sailboat and had it hauled into a clearing in the woods on my friend's land where I'm going to try to fix it up. I'll either fail spectacularly or I'll use it to sail around the world. Welcome to the beginning of my descent into madness. Good morning. Welcome aboard. So we are on my 1966 Angleman Sea Spirit Ketch sailboat. It was built in a shipyard in Yokohama, Japan. I don't know the name of the shipyard. I'm still trying to figure out a lot of the backstory. I don't have any of the plans or paperwork associated with this boat, but I'm hoping that as time goes on, I can dig up more and give a more detailed history, but I'll try to summarize what I know. It was designed by a guy named Hugh Engelman. He designed his boats to be Pacific Ocean cruisers. It's 13 feet at the beam, which is the widest point starboard to port. It's got what's called a full keel, so the keel runs pretty much the entire length of the ship. And because of that and the weight and the width, it's very stable in open ocean cruising. Okay, so here we are underneath the boat. My boat has what's called a full keel, so it runs from bow to stern. Boats that have full keels are not as maneuverable, but it's my understanding that they have a bit more stability. The other more common type of keel is what's called a fin keel, and there's a few other ones. But there would basically be one big deep fin sort of in the center of the hull, and fin keels are much better maneuvering. But this whole boat was designed to be very stable. This is like a giant chunk of lead right here. So I believe she's planked in mahogany. This more open grain pattern looks very similar to mahogany. It'll be interesting once I get the paint stripped off and do a little bit of sanding to expose the fresh wood. And then she's fastened with copper rivets. So behind all these plugs are thousands of copper rivets, and I'm probably gonna have to redo that when I redo the frames inside. One of the iconic design elements of Hugh Engelman's boats are these, I don't even know what to call them, these decorative moldings leading up towards the bowsprit. And unfortunately these are rotten, so I'm gonna have to replace them. And I think when I do that, I might use this as an opportunity to do a really nice carving, maybe some sort of story carving. Sometimes people will carve like a chronological story into boards or some sort of decorative element in their house. I think that would be really cool here, but I might just redo this sort of vine pattern. Not really sure yet. This thing is what sold me on this boat. It's this is called the bowsprit. This spar or timber that's running out of the front. Yeah, this, unfortunately, the whole thing's rotten, so it needs to be replaced. Absolutely my favorite part of the boat. When I was younger, my grandparents used to live in a small town in Ontario called Bobcaygeon, and there's a lot of lakes in that area. And they had a little powerboat, and whenever we would visit, we would take the boat out in the summer, and I remember I was always drawn to sitting in the bow seat. Like, that was always my favorite spot. And I think that's what really influenced me when I pulled up and I saw this. I just can visualize myself once this thing is in the water, spending a lot of time in that bow pulpit. So here you can see this huge piece of hardwood that makes up the rudder, and it's as far as I can tell, it's a single piece. But unfortunately, I don't think I can continue using it because of these cracks here. Like, you can see right through them. Maybe I could, splice in a new piece. If anyone knows what this is for, this notch here, let me know. So you can see some of the absolutely massive pieces of wood that make up the keel of this boat. That's a single piece, and that runs like, I don't even know. I don't want to know. I hope it's fine. I do not want to have to replace this piece of wood. 3-bladed bronze propeller. The zincs are obviously in need of replacement. It spins okay. I'll definitely have to service. I think this is I think this is called the stuffing box. Here's that big chunk of lead that makes up the keel. So it runs from up there all the way back here. I'd love to know how much that thing weighs. The decking is teak, so are the rub rails, most of the interior, which I'll show you in a minute. The deck house at the back, this section is teak. The companionway hatch is also teak, but it doesn't look to be original. The craftsmanship isn't quite up to the standard of the rest of the boat. One of the strange things about this boat is one of the previous owners got rid of the cockpit, so there's just a flat deck back here. Normally you would have a sunken area where you can sit, and I just feel like it feels more secure. So I'm definitely gonna add one back in. There's also no lifeline, there's no guardrail around the boat. I don't know if there was one at all. I don't see any holes for stanchions or any sort of posts that would hold the rope. So I don't know. I just can't imagine standing here in a storm trying to steer this boat and not being terrified of getting thrown overboard. She has 2 compartments here. I think these are called lockers. I'm not sure if there's a different term for the ones on deck. Probably frozen shut. Oh, jeez. She came with 2 tillers. This one's my favorite out of the 2. The other one's more of a laminate, like a laminated wooden tiller, but this one's solid teak, and it's got this really nice hand-carved scroll on the end of it. The function of the tiller is to steer the ship or boat. Yeah, basically you would attach the tiller to this piece, and I don't know what this is called, but it's the top of the rudder shaft. So you just put the bolt through like that. Super easy to get on and off. And then, yeah, once the tiller's on, you just basically, you steer. This is probably the position that I would be in most of the time because I can actually see over the bow right now. Sometimes people will sit, but I can't see anything. So maybe it's different when it's in the water. The top of the deck house is really cool. Like I wasn't sure what it was for a long time. It's this sort of smooth. Like, it doesn't look like fiberglass. When I was looking up how old canoes were made, I realized that this is made in the same way. So it's cotton canvas that's stretched out over a wooden structure. In this case, it's like V-groove, some sort of V-groove. It might be fir or pine. And then that cotton is painted with, traditionally it would have been like a linseed paint, some sort of oil paint. And in that oil paint, there would have been some sort of mineral pigment, like an ochre. And the combination of the linseed oil and ochre soaks into the fibers of the cotton and creates an impermeable surface. Out of all of the surfaces, this thing's been out in the rain for a lot of years. And out of all of the surfaces that have been getting rained on, this has been by far the most waterproof. Like, there's no water damage on the ceiling of the deck house, which is awesome. So I'm gonna redo this for sure. So you can see here, unfortunately, there is damage to the side of the deck house. So that'll have to be repaired. But you can also see these really nice bronze portholes. And these are another sort of feature of this boat that really sold me on buying this. So there's 4 on this side, 4 on the other side. Oh God. 4 on the starboard side, 4 on the port over there, 1 at the stern and 2 at the bow. They don't let in a lot of light. So I think one of the other things about this deck house that I'm gonna change is I'm gonna put a butterfly skylight on with some nice bronze rod protecting the glass, and I'm gonna get out of this position because I'm very uncomfortable. Oh my God. There's certain angles where you really catch the lines of this boat, and I don't know, there's something about it. I'd really like to convert this into a skylight as well, because when this is open, it's nice and bright in the bow, but yeah, when it's closed, it's real dark in there. And that brings us nicely to the windlass here, which is used for raising and lowering the anchor. And so the way this one works, I'm actually not 100% sure. So I gotta carry this thing because it won't clip to my sweater. I guess you would like use both hands at the same time, but why are there 2 rollers? There's no teeth to engage like a chain, so is this specifically for rope? I don't know, so many questions. Where's the rope go? There's no like chain pipe. I guess you would open this and then like dump it down there, but then there's no real explicit chain locker. I don't know, something to think about. So this boat is what's called it. I don't know if you could see that, but the deck beams are very rotten, and this whole deck house is sinking right here. So I'm gonna sit over here. This boat is what's called a ketch. So there's 2 masts. The forward mast is the larger of the 2. If it were reversed, so the smaller mast was at the front and the larger was at the back, it would be a schooner. Larger mast goes up front, smaller mast goes at the back, and that's called the mizzen. And these masts on my boat go through the deck, and they actually seat into the keel, so they're keel stepped. There's a tenon on the bottom of the mast that goes into a mortise down there. Here you can see the forward mast step, and something I found in here that was really cool when I was cleaning it out. So this is a silver dollar, an American silver dollar from 1878. It's good luck to have a coin under your mast, so that's gonna live there forever, or until the boat falls apart. Here in the rear mast step, I didn't find a coin, so I'll have to put one in, and I actually have the perfect coin that I'll share later. I'm looking at this on the monitor, or on the screen of the phone. It looks so creepy. It looks so creepy. All right, it's a couple days later. It's +6 now. It felt like -19 when I was filming the first part. But I've got more light. The cabin should look way less creepy. So we'll go down here now and I'll show you around. So here we have the galley, or the kitchen. So it's a bit, I don't know, it's a bit cramped. There's not a lot of room in here. But there's a decent amount of counter space with this big bar structure. I've got a gimbaling 3-burner propane stove oven combo. I don't know if it works. It will most definitely need to be cleaned out because it's being used as a mouse hotel right now. Sailboat stoves gimbal like this, so that when you're rocking in the waves, it keeps the food that you're cooking relatively level. Here's a closer look at the stove. It's my frozen wet napkin. Got some food storage under here, so I just have most of my spices in here until I figure something else out in my other living space. There's something really cool in this lower cubby that I want to show you if I can. I don't know how well you can see. Right at the back corner there's this little triangular piece, and I mean you would never see it unless you like stuck your head in there, but there's no gap. Like it's so perfectly fit. And it really, I don't know, that really sums up the craftsmanship of this boat. For storage, we've got a couple drawers, some cabinets. All of the hinges in this boat, they've got like a brass shell, but they're steel or some sort of ferrous metal on the inside, where the pins are, and so they're all frozen, and they'll need to be replaced. So none of the doors really work properly. And so here we have this really nice big bar structure, and it's actually hiding the engine. So this is a diesel engine it's branded Pathfinder, but someone told me that this is actually a rebranded Volkswagen engine. So if I can figure out which one it is, I can go to a Volkswagen dealership and order parts for it. So here, just forward of the galley, we have this would be one of the berths or beds, and this would be more of like a living area. So this would act as like a couch. There's holes in the floor here, so there was obviously a table at some point. We've got a coal stove, which I'm not going to use, but there is a bag of coal in here. It's got a really nice copper flue that I'm hoping I can reuse with a wood stove. Under here is the diesel tank. We've got these really nice cabinet doors with louvers. There's some shelving in here, but I'll probably put more. I'm going to rework a few things. I'm going to try to keep the layout as original as possible so that I don't have to do too much cabinet work. We've got some more storage up here. I'm just using it as like a pantry for now for dried beans and stuff. So here we have the little coal stove, which again I will not be using. I don't want to run coal in this boat, but there is, like I said, there is a bag of coal. It's got a picture of Santa Claus on it. Crazy. And then under here, more coal. And a carbon monoxide alarm, which is definitely not good anymore. What's this? Furnace cement. All along the perimeter of the interior of the boat are these grab rails, which are really handy. You need lots of things to grab onto when you're in rough seas and you're moving around. So those are nice to have. So this is the companionway, and this is how you get into the cabin. It's got a sliding hatch like this, and then there's two boards that go down into grooves here, and that creates this sort of door. The one thing it's missing is there's no grab rails anywhere. There's no grab rails on the ladder, so you kind of have to grab onto other parts of the companionway. So I'll probably end up, well, first of all, I want to enlarge this because it's too small to get anything into the cabin. So that'll be one of the projects. And at that point, I'll probably just redesign the whole thing and put grab rails in. As you come down the companionway with your, your wet rain gear on, you would come in here. This is a wet locker. So this is where you would hang all of your rain gear. There's a piece of waxed canvas that stops the fresh water or whatever water you have on you from getting onto the frames and the planking. And then that would drip down into the bilge where it gets pumped out. So here's a good look at the hinges. You can see that it has a brass shell, but the core of the hinge is iron. So they're all rusted to the point where they don't work. So here on the starboard side, we have another berth, more seating area, more storage, pretty much identical to the other side. And then this is the fresh water tank. So it's a stainless steel tank. I don't know what the capacity is, but it's pretty big. Now, one of the problems is that none of these berths are long enough for me. Like I can't, well, this one's okay. It's like my heels are touching and my head is touching here, so it's like just enough, but I can't really like stretch out or anything, which is kind of an unrealistic expectation on a sailboat, but I don't know. It would be nice to have like a full length bed. So here, this would have been the main, the master bedroom, or the main berth. It's a double berth. It's kind of a wedge shape, so I guess you would want your feet down here and your head up there. But the problem is, this is where the bathroom is supposed to be, or the head. There's clearly a bulkhead that used to be here, and because the deck beams are rotting, this whole deck house has sunk by 3 or 4 inches in this corner because there's no bulkhead here anymore, and that was a structural part of the ship. So I don't know why they took it out. This, if you have a boat big enough, it doesn't make sense to not have a bathroom, to me personally, if you're going to live on it. But yeah, the more important issue is that was a structural member of the boat, and now the integrity is compromised. So that's definitely going to be one of the big projects, is putting a head back in. So this is where I keep my coal and some paint stuff. Got some nails and a backpack and a sash plane. No, what is that? That's a raised panel plane. And there's a rope in there and nothing else. Here's a better look at the shape of that double berth. So when the boat was full of my stuff, this is where I was sleeping, just in this little alley here. But these floors actually lift out, and so you can see the bilge and the top of the keel. It's hard to tell. Like, I'm pretty sure those are concrete ballast blocks, so those will have to be broken out in order to actually inspect the keel timber. But from like prodding with a knife and sharp objects, it seems like the wood is in decent shape from wherever I've been able to actually look at it. Now, that could definitely change as I start taking like the garboards off and some of the other planking. All right, and then up here we just have some storage. This, if you put planks on these beams, this could be another berth. So, there's one here, 2 here, one there, and then one back there. This boat could sleep 6 people, and then if you put people on the floor, you could get even more. Yeah, right now this is just storage. So I have the radar scanner that came with the boat, just some like yard tools, and then up here, I believe that's the chain locker. But again, there's no, oh, there is a hole. Okay, so that would have been the chain pipe. And so you would feed the anchor chain through that into this section, which is the chain locker. And then behind the engine is sort of the utility area. So there's some radar equipment. This is where the batteries were. I took them out and recycled them because they were shot. Yeah, back there is where the cockpit would have been. And so there is more storage back there, but I would rather have a cockpit than more storage, personally. Okay, so we should probably talk about the problems with the boat. A lot of them are pretty obvious. The three big ones are the frames. A lot of the frames are cracked. I think that's just because they were undersized. I've heard that the frames on these boats just weren't big enough. The second one is that the deck structure is all rotten. The entire thing will have to be replaced. The deck itself is in great shape because it's teak and it's really rot resistant. And then the third big thing is the dead wood at the stem will need to be replaced. And then there's a few unknowns. So the keel, as far as I've been able to inspect it, seems to be fine. But when you can't really see until you start tearing into it. Oh, the other big project is putting a cockpit back in and then putting a head back in, so a new bulkhead. And then yeah, everything else is aesthetics and smaller jobs, but still very time consuming. So there's some cabinetry to do inside. And then new masts. It's another big project. I might have a lead on the original sails for this boat, but possibly new sails as well. So there's a lot of work here, and that kind of transitions well into our Q&A section. And one of the questions I've gotten a few times is, why did I buy this boat and not like a $5,000 fiberglass boat? That's a great question. It's kind of hard to answer, but I've always been somebody who loved keeping things going, to fix things, and especially beautiful things that have had a lot of work put into them. And this boat took a lot of work to build, and there's a lot of really incredible craftsmanship that went into it. There's a lot of really rare hardwoods that, those trees were cut down and they were turned into this boat. And I don't know, it would be a shame to light it on fire or put it in a landfill or whatever, you want to do with an old boat. I've heard from a lot of sailors that wooden boats just have they have a soul and a character of their own, and I really want to fix this boat. The goal isn't to get sailing, it's to get this boat sailing. It's to fix this boat, get it in the water, and I don't know, I wanted to save it, and I hope by the end of this, I hope that it's obvious that this boat was worth saving. The other thing I will say too is, as insane as it was to take this project on in the first place, I do have a realistic part of my brain that is prepared to walk away if things get too dicey. I am incredibly determined to get this boat in the water. If I can do it, I will. But yeah, if it gets to the point where it's just not realistic anymore, then I will have to end the project. And I don't know, I'll do something cool with the boat. A lot of people have suggested the possibility of just leaving it on the land and turning it into a cabin, which would be pretty cool. I've always liked structures inside of greenhouses to create little microclimates. So that would be, a possibility is moving this somewhere more permanent and then building a greenhouse over it. But I want to see it back in the water. That is the goal. One of the other questions I've gotten a few times is, where do I want to sail first? And I think the first passage is going to be across the Bay of Fundy into St. John and the St. John River Valley. I've heard from my friends who are from New Brunswick that it's just an incredibly beautiful place, and that would be a great sort of starting point. I know that the Bay of Fundy is pretty intense. Although having said that, I don't know that I can launch it on this side. I think I'm going to launch it in Shelburne, which is on the south shore of Nova Scotia, and then sail it around. So that'll probably be the first passage. I have to be ready for that though. because the Bay of Fundy, the tides here at their maximum are up to 15 meters. Like, they're huge tides. And so there's a lot of current going through here. And so that's probably a good way to get into the next question. Vince asks, how much sailing experience do I have? Outside of the 2 incidents that I talked about in the first video, sailing those 2 dinghies, I don't have any. That might be another red flag, but part of the project is going to be learning to sail larger vessels like this. So I will likely do crewing on race days down on the South Shore in like Lunenburg and Mahone Bay. People always need extra crew, extra hands on the boat. And then I'll also get my own dinghy at some point, and I'll refresh my memory sailing that thing around. Jessica asks, did I jump into this head first with no idea of what I was getting into? Yeah, kind of. I don't have any experience as a shipwright or a boat builder. I am a carpenter by trade, so I work with wood. I specialize in more fine carpentry, woodworking, and heritage carpentry. So I'm really passionate about digging up old building methods, and I'm hoping that those skills will transfer into working on a ship. The biggest difference, obviously, is that there are almost no straight lines on a boat, where when you're building a house, everything is square, straight, plumb, level. But yeah, this is all organic curves and shapes. So that'll be really interesting to learn that new skill set. Okay, so Greta Bird asks, why did I take the ironwood stove out? So this is the ship stove. It's what is this? It's a Davy & Co. hot pot coal stove. And the stove that you saw me dragging in the first video was just, I don't know where it came from, but it was sitting under the boat. And the seller said that I could take it. So what I did is I moved it out of the way for the move, and then I actually went back for it, and it's sitting up by my new living space. Yeah, so I'm actually gonna take this one out. As far as heating the boat goes, I'll definitely be using wood and not coal, because I don't even know where you get it anymore. Not to mention how, I don't think my neighbors in the marina would appreciate me burning coal. So Flossie Rocks asks, what is my filmmaking / storytelling history? I don't have any. Like, that was my first video that I've ever made. I made a wedding video for my friends. I have a VHS camcorder, so I made them sort of like a home video style wedding video. But other than that, like, that was my first ever YouTube video. I was surprised, to say the least, to see how well that video did, and like, so grateful for everyone that shared it and commented on it. And yeah, it was just kind of mind-blowing, kind of overwhelming. I was expecting this to take a really long time to build up momentum, so I'm hoping I won't dash anyone's expectations, but yeah, I'm loving the support so far. It's really made this, it's given me a lot of motivation. Last, Cindy asks, do I have a triage list of projects? Yeah, so the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna strip the paint off of the exterior of the hull, and then that'll let me see the planking, see exactly where I need to replace planks. And then the next thing, I'm gonna come up on deck and take the deck off. I'll give it a nice clean up first, make sure that I label every single plank, know where it goes, and I'll store that somewhere safe off-site. And then I'm gonna disassemble the deck house. Actually, I'll probably do that first, and then remove all of the deck structure, remove the interior, all of the furniture, the moldings, the cabinetry, so that I have access to the bones of the boat. And then at that point, it'll be starting to do frames. I'll look at replacing the deadwood at the stem, inspect the keel more thoroughly. Yeah, just get a really good idea of what has to be done. And then beyond that, it's putting in a cockpit, putting a head back in, a new bulkhead, new hatches. I'm gonna do a skylight in the center of the deck house. And yeah, just getting, getting the rigging together, new masts, possibly new sails. And then as far as the overarching project, there's a couple things I have to do. So I've already built my new, more permanent living space, and I'll show that in the next couple videos. I also have to build a wood shop so that I can store my tools safely, because they're getting destroyed by the moisture. All right, so last couple things, I'll try to be quick. This is a health update. I'm starting to feel better. The Lyme it's still slowing me down, but as you can see, there is a new structure over the boat, and I built that while I was recovering. As I was working, I would hit a wall, I would get dizzy, I would get a headache. I would start getting flushed and really fatigued, and so I just went and I sat down for a little while and read, or just sort of tried to relax, and then I came back to it, and I kept sort of pushing that a little bit more each time, and eventually I got to the point where I was able to do this. And yeah, I will touch on this in another video. It's not done yet. I still have to do the bracing, but it's doing a really good job of keeping the moisture off of the boat. So the other thing is I made a new friend through Instagram, and he has the same boat as me. He's sailing in Brazil right now, and it's just been really cool to see this boat in the water, to see it moving through the waves. And so I'll put the link to his Instagram page in the description so that you can go check it out. So yeah, that's my boat. Thank you for watching. I really appreciate it, and I hope, this is going to take years. I hope over the next few years we can watch this boat transform into something really beautiful and seaworthy.